Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Wednesday morning seminar. Today we are talking about insolvency and cash flow in the construction industry. And this is presented by Mohammed Haque, who's a consultant barrister, adjudicator, and quantum expert for civil law. You can see his details there. As always, please feel free to submit any questions that you have for Mohammed via the Q&A or chat facility in the bottom toolbar. Equally, if there's something you wish to ask but don't wish to ask it in an open forum, please feel free to email him directly. As you can see there, it's Mohammed Haque at silverllp.com. But in the meantime, Mo, I'll hand over to you.
Right. Good morning, everybody. And thanks very much for joining me early this morning. I personally, when Julie asked me to hold this seminar on this topic, I personally felt good because I think it's time that we really take it seriously and consider our cash flow position in the business because of, as you know, the pandemic, or we are coming out of the pandemic. It's a very good news to be out of the pandemic, but those of us who are in business, and I will explain a little bit more later on, we're enjoying various incentives and schemes declared by the government, like deferring our payment to tax and all. Will get the shock very soon. And no doubt that we are in post-Brexit as well. And resources are going to be less or more challenging to procure once we get into the business as usual or normal. So all these going to have an impact on our cash flow, and there will be probably a picture where we need to be very prepared for the challenges we are going to face very soon. Let's start with some numbers. A very interesting thing, I've noted in the beginning of the first quarter of 2020. I think this a similar seminar was held by my ex-colleague Ryland Ash, and the number of insolvency was, as usual, increasing, increasing. And so people were worried that, okay, pandemic has come, business going to stop, so there'll be more creditors than debtors on our balance sheet or on our list, and as such there might be more insolvencies coming up. Interestingly, after the year ended, i.e. the Q4 of 2020, we have a huge decrease in numbers compared to the immediate year before, that was 2019, and I will even present a slight comparison or the data of the final quarter of 2020 of insolvency data. But let's just have a look at the 2020 a year as a whole. We had 9,418 creditors voluntary liquidations, which was surprisingly 22% decrease, a decrease of 22% from the whole of 2019. Meaning, as I was just saying, that it was expected that there would be more creditors and more insolvency due to as an effect of pandemic, but it was other way around. And then there were 1351 compulsory liquidations, which is a 55% decrease from 2019. Then 1526 administrations, which was a decrease by 16%, and 259 CVAs, a 26% decrease from 2019, and only 3 receivership, 2 more than 2019. So other than receivership, all were decreasing, and by a good margin, a good percentage. And to be honest, this is the numbers showed that we had the leanest period as far as insolvency goes in the whole of 10 years preceding 2020. I mean, is it surprising that we had the lowest numbers in a decade, even though we've entered Brexit and we've entered what you call pandemic, where there were less business, from all probability? I will answer that after I just go through the slide here. Now, this is the slide where we see in England and Wales in only Q4 2020 the numbers. Okay. Now, roughly, we had about 10,000, 9,448, to be honest, the total number during the whole of 2020, and increasingly, Q4, there was already an increase by 17% from Q3 2020. Although, I mean, compared to if we compare the similar data, just as I've shown that in 2019, and if we compare it with, I didn't bother to give you the numbers, with the Q4 2020, still there was decreased numbers, 27%. But what I'm trying to say here is the number actually increased between Q3 2020 and Q4 2020 by 17%. And except for CVAs, which increased by 4% when compared to Q4 2019, there were decreases in all types of company insolvency between 2019 and 2020, but increase between 2020 Q3 and 2020 Q4. What does that show? Is, no, it's not surprising. What actually happened, the pandemic effects, the number one was everyone was like shocked. They didn't have means to plan to go against another company. The courts were closed. So it was like a situation where people were sort of, because it just hit in Q2. So in anticipation that it's coming, it slowed down a bit in Q1. And then when it really hit us, people were totally lost. So they were even, if they had an opportunity to go against someone for insolvency, they simply didn't have their focus on it, because they were focusing on something else, their primary business. That was one reason. And the second biggest reason was, I'll come back to it again later on. The second biggest reason was that a government have declared various incentives, allowed the companies to defer paying their taxes, submitting their accounts. So and other incentives to them of some sort, by giving them some bailout cash and things. So there were things by the government and also the Cabinet Office have declared that, you work responsibly at this point in time. Do not fight with each other. All these had a combined effect of halting insolvency for the time being. Now, is this something to be very cheerful about? Well, I mean, we rested a bit for a while, for sure, but this suspension of uh, insolvency applications, I believe, are going to come to an end. And it's not only me; it's the industry leaders are all forecasting that 2021, at the end of 20, we've already been through the first quarter, and signs are already there that the numbers are increasing. And let's just not be too focused on the last quarter. The major players, the construction industry journals, the various forums are clearly marking the time ahead as going to be very dangerous. There would be significant rise. That's the first thing. If you open the news portals about construction industry, well, I mean, tourism is in disaster, I would say, and maybe construction is slightly better, but the picture is no good. There'll be a significant rise, and why would that be? Now, once, well, I'll come back to that again in the next slide, but why would that be? But let me just paint the picture first, that what are the expectations of the industry leaders about insolvency for our industry in coming days. One thing that's been predicted was that it may not be higher than the ordinary normal years, because as I said, the number has fallen dramatically, so it'll be still not be crossing under each subhead we have discussed earlier, to cross the numbers in any other ordinary years. But if we compare from 2020, it'll be a significant rise, and maybe it will cross the numbers of any other normal years in recent past. So you may feel satisfied. All right, fair enough. It's just coming back to normal type thing. We are coming out of Brexit and we are in post-Brexit and coming out of pandemic. So we're getting back to normal. So I shouldn't be worried about, but no, you should, because it may be. And why it may be is because we have to understand the pattern, which pattern of insolvency are going to occur more. When I say this, the pattern and which pattern will be happening more, or types, whatever way you want to term it, I actually mean the difference between balance sheet insolvency and cash flow insolvency. I mean, just in case we are not familiar with these two, let me just go to the next slide and try to explain, or keep it in the background when I discuss what type are we going to have more. The predictions, as I read and I feel as well, is that cash flow will be the main crisis, which is a crisis in our industry anyway, and I'll come back to it in a minute again. But let me explain what it is. I mean, I could kind of keep on going in defining and then, citing case laws and also presenting paragraphs or sentences which are paragraph long, and paragraphs which are page long, to try to explain what is cash flow insolvency or what is balance sheet insolvency. But I wanted to keep it simple because the audience only needs to be aware of what it is, if not already aware. When we talk about cash flow insolvency, it means that the company or the person has enough fixed assets or even debtors on the book, which is showing that the net asset is more than the third party liabilities. By third party liabilities, I only exclude the capital of the equity of the shareholders or the partners or the proprietor, and I include all types of debts. And mind you, sometimes we think of debts only for trade creditors and loans of one or the other type, but it may not be. It could be debentures from the owner. So that's one. And then it could be, which we forget sometimes, is your tax bill. Your other payments to the government bodies, which you cannot recover, like some part of the VATs. It could be your contribution to funds like pension funds, I mean the private pension funds here, or other benefits for the employees. So although your balance sheet would show some cash reserves, if these are actually owned by some third parties, or in purely accounting term, if these are liabilities for you, for other finance, and you cannot or the business cannot extend or put the hand on, in that case, your balance sheet will show that you are quite well, you are even cash rich, but what you'll experience practically would be that the bills are coming in and you are failing to pay because you do not have enough cash to pay back. And the reasons are, number one, of course, would be the business not going to be as much, or earnings not going to be as much, or revenues not going to be as much as you had expected. And you might have invoices pre pandemic, which is you managed to have get some sort of installment payments, and that's coming to an end as well. So for a whole lot of reasons, the invoices that falls due during any month or quarter, or for the period of time you're considering, may cause you difficulty to pay off. Excuse me. And that's cash flow insolvency. As opposed to that, what is balance sheet insolvency? A balance sheet insolvency, your assets will be taken into consideration, totaled, after taking the depreciation effect, the market value and all. And then, again, other than the shareholders' equity, all the liabilities, the creditors and loans and debentures will be deducted. And of course, the reserves will not, because if it's a liability to some other group, maid employees and others, liability for other finance, will also be taken off. And if the result is, the liability is, of course, other than the share capital, more than the assets, it's a simple arithmetic, then you are to be declared as insolvent, or you are in a balance sheet insolvency. Now, why is that different? Why does that difference really matter? It matters because if you have a cash flow insolvency only, and you still have assets, you have a chance that which is more than your liability, you have a chance to kind of liquidate some of your assets, or at least take in the form of taking another loan or something to meet your cash flow insolvency. But then how long? Unless the revenue increases and the expenses decreases, how long would you be able to sustain? You know, so in one way or the other, the cash flow is going to be vital, and you've got to manage it. And if you can't, then of course we know if we fail to pay an invoice during a period or within a particular period, they do show shark's teeth, or you may have to show the shark's teeth as well, to say that statutory demand is coming. Shockingly, surprisingly, you are not paying any heed to my demands. So we presume that this is a situation where you have proved yourself that you are insolvent. So we will take the next step, of course. So you could be the object, so to say, face it. And you could even use the same, or find that it's not that it's a very good thing. Find that you are issuing demands to gain something and to manage your own affairs. And well, I mean, if it is the case, it is the case that you are having a bad time. And we know what might come up. The creditors might join together and give a notice. And you might think, hang on a minute, I can't bear it anymore. I will go. Whatever happens, happens. I just want to declare myself or my company insolvent. And when the big names will, some or one or two will have difficulty. If you are down the chain of the supply chain, you'll have difficulties as well. So you might say, okay, what's the point? Let me just go burst. So is that a solution? Well, I mean, if this is a solution, like a suggestion that if rape is inevitable, try to enjoy it. But no, to me, it's not a solution. What can we do? First, to remember that asset is vanity, profit is sanity. It is cash flow that matters in our industry, because we are contractors. And although front loading is not, unless you're an international player, front loading is not something quite common in this country. You actually heavily depend on the regular invoice payments from up the chain, be it employer, be it contractor. So you got to sort of, before the real-time problem starts, you got to take a stock of your situation, what earnings coming, and by creating maybe a report for your own sake, an analysis of a review of your entitlements, the present one, the past ones. For example, a recent one which my senior partner Richard Silver doesn't like, but I feel that's something people will be doing more and more, is in reference to Richard Silver's being referring to this in our regular seminars month end, the Grenfell Tower effect, or cladding claims, for instance. And why the parties are rushing to it in one sense or the other, because the time or the claims are becoming time bird. So I'm bringing in this here because I would say, don't just wait Review your entitlements that you have in contracts where it's signed as a deed for last 12 years, and the ones that you have signed not as a deed, if you can find a claim in last 6 years. And when I'm talking about a claim in 12 years or 6 years, what I mean is that the time starts to run. Gulliver Trial and Asturia said that. Well, the Supreme Court said that in Gulliver Trial, that the time starts to rerun, so to say, for the limitation period when the dispute was last acknowledged by the opponent. So it could very well be more than 6 and 12 years that your other side has accepted to dispute the claim, you know. So still that could be an entitlement. I'm not saying to throw dice into the black hole. There should be a claim before you go, but there could be, in good times, you might have not decided that, okay, let it go, life is like that. I will go ahead and do my normal business, not to bother about it, sort of thing. But maybe this is not the time to think so easily. We may have to sort of review. And the areas, of course, in our world, we know we may get a hit from, or we may gain something. Two areas: variation accounts and delay claims. And maybe that earlier in your contracts, you might not have seriously considered certain things. Okay, yeah, I'll let it go type, as a variation and an entitlement. But I think this is good time that you analyze. So what I'm trying to say is take a preparation in the sense of what liabilities are coming when the government schemes are off, and when it's a regular time, meaning your internal payments of paying to the employees, and the retention bonus or scheme is no more there, and you are paying in full. And if the cash flow is not supporting, what can you do? With internal and even with trade creditors, maybe you can go to some kind of installment arrangements. I mean, don't take a step like leave it there, and when I'm asked, I will try to respond it, or I'll hide and I will then wait for them to give an installment. No, do discuss, be collaborative internally and with the creditors, that can I have an installment benefit? But all that installments and reduction and discount, whatever these are, can only help you if you have sufficient means in the future to pay them off. And for that, there is no other option but to increase. Now, obviously, if you are lucky, if there is business sufficient and you can start earning a lot, then fantastic. But till that happens, the only thing you can do is just, again, review your entitlements. And as I said, when you review your entitlements or claims under any contract in past years, first of all, list the contracts, I would ask, in a spreadsheet, and where you might think that, okay, I've agreed at final accounts, I've lost all the rights to claim. No, it could be that a common law, you have a right, which was a variation, but which was not picked up and signed up. You have signed it up. Similarly, if you had defects after the defect liability period in common law, you still have a right to claim. And other claims of delay, if you have not finally agreed it, you still have claims under that. And if you're a contractor, the type of claims that are available in your hand are loss and expenses, provided you could show that you are not responsible for the delay. So whatever little things are there, try to analyze it, and do not be irresponsible and think that and get excited, wow, I've got a claim, because it's not anything good either, because you might have litigation funders and whatnot, other people telling you that jump up and you'll soon win the claims and you will have a right answer. It may not be the case. It may not be the case. But of course, there's no harm in analyzing, or it is a good strategy to me to analyze your situation. And if you do have a claim to make, this is the right time to go ahead. Of course, one head may not give you a lot, but if you have listed all the possible areas where you can maximize your cash flow, and as this one of these is one of those would be making claims. And also, I mean, you got to think of what if others claim against you? You know, if there are potential claims, what can you do? And do not just wait and be sued and then start thinking. Take a step ahead, analyze it, and if there are claims which you think you are genuinely responsible for, at least avoid the legal bill. Take a legal opinion, an opinion from other professionals. So if you are a professional who has given a misadvice, take or feel that you have done so, take your position seriously, because you would not like to get a claim attaching with your PI. If you are a contractor or an employer, also consider seriously the insurance policies that you have in your hand, if that helps at all. It's complex. It's not so easy to find out, because sometimes you think, I've got an insurance, but then you find out no, because we know that the insurance for companies, for good reasons, they will try their level best not to pay out. So if you do have a claim, and you think that there is an insurance policy which you can rely on to cash it up, that's another area which you should be serious about. And interestingly, insolvent companies, or the companies that are in the process of insolvency, they can be adjudicated against, or they can adjudicate. So if your intended or prospective party against whom you are making a claim is becoming insolvent, or is an insolvent company, you got to be prompt. If you start the proceedings beforehand, and you have an insurance, then your claim may be ring fenced, and the liquidator will be forced to acknowledge your claim. That's one part. And the other thing is, even if there are in some types of liquidation, you can still make the claim, and it's been clarified by the UK Supreme Court in 2020 that you can adjudicate, and you could be adjudicated against, even if you have entered into the insolvency process. Interestingly, Carillion received 250 million funding. I've only seen this report last week, where they have done what I'm asking you to do, a proper, under, of course, the liquidator's guidance, a proper analysis of their claims. And the lawyers and other experts have already given opinion that there is a good chance that they will succeed. Based on that, a litigation funder has injected 250 million pound to fight their claims. So you can imagine the importance of. Now, of course, I don't know the exact amount what has been suggested, but I'm sure that must be much bigger a chunk than what they have at the moment. So it's taken from the forecasts. It's a gloomy picture ahead, unless you're very, very lucky that you have enough work and your employers are going to pay, or you can, at least for the short period of time, avail some invoice financing, which you can afford to. You should be on your toes, analyze your position, and try to manage this inevitable hazard, and be on the top of it, to manage it better. And I think that's all. That's all from me this morning. And off to Julie.
Okay, if anyone has any questions, now is the time to pop them into the Q&A panel. Otherwise, it looks like, as usual, Mohammed, you have explained everything so beautifully that no one has any questions, because they now understand insolvency and cash flow. So it just remains to say thank you very much to Mohammed for your time, and thank you to everyone who's attended this morning. Our next morning seminar is next Wednesday, not forgetting that is a bank holiday week, where we have John Sharp talking about insurance and what you need to know. If you'd like to book a place on that, please don't hesitate to email seminars@silverllp.com. And we look forward to seeing you all again very soon. Thank you very much. Thanks, Mohammed. Bye-bye.